So first of all, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Noella, for the opportunity, and it's an honor to be sharing a bit of my story with you, especially among so many esteemed speakers as well. But good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I don't know where are you are connecting from. I am based in Luxembourg, so for me it's 8:44 p.m. I know that some of you are 1 hour behind, 1 hour ahead. Some of us are in India. So I'm very happy to be here. And with no further ado, I would like to start by sharing one information. And I think Noel already kind of shared this spoiler a bit. I didn't come from tech, and I cannot consider myself as a techie, as we see from the other speakers that are esteemed tech professionals. But then you may wonder what then I'm doing here, right? So I have a very interesting, in my perspective, and humbly career. So I started actually studying biology. That's my background is biology and business administration. And I always felt attracted by STEM, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I was always a geek myself, so now you can maybe understand why geek girl. And I was always proud to be a geek and a nerd. But I was always challenged by teachers and tutors saying, you know that you are scoring A's because we're doing easy tests for you, and so on and so forth. And that was my whole life and career. And unfortunately, that's the bad news. It won't be any different to other girls that are coming and to other minorities. But the good point is there is a lot of awareness currently, and this conference is extremely important to raise that and to bridge and bring this support that many of us need to bridge the gap, right? And to try to come into a STEM field. But what I also would like to share with you, besides being located in Luxembourg, I'm originally Brazilian, so I don't come from a privileged country background, so to say. Being Brazil, one of the biggest economies, of course, we have a lot of poverty and a lot of difficulties in the country. But it was always my passion and dream also to have an opportunity outside. So that's when I decided in 2016 to come to Europe. And then going back to my career, how did that happen? I was working for Ernst& Young. So I started my career in the German Chamber of Commerce, speaking only English, which is not my native language. And at the German Chamber of Commerce, many of my colleagues were coming from privileged backgrounds where they could speak 3 or 4 languages. And eventually, I was working with technology transfer and representation of fairs, of German fairs in Brazil. And I started getting extremely intrigued about an opportunity, a career opportunity outside of Brazil. And that's when I had my first journey to Germany to learn German. And I went back to Brazil. I started working for Ernst& Young as a tax advisor. I was not exactly clear what tax advisory meant coming from business administration, but I found quite interesting the opportunity to work with expats and executives all over the world. And I was doing tax return, which was not very exciting, to be very honest with you. But that's when I found an opportunity to have an expatriation to Europe. And I said, okay, that's what I want to do. And I came to work for Ernst& Young Munich first. And the opportunity that gave me this was the fact that I could speak German. And I learned it in 4 months when I was living here. So in Germany. After 2 years at EY Munich, then I came to EY Luxembourg, and I was then working full mobility, so social security, immigration, tax. And after a couple of years, I was again kind of seeing myself working with taxes and not exactly happy about it. But then you may wonder, okay, when is actually tech coming into play? And even though I was always a high performer and I call myself a lifeaholic because I'm extremely intense. So think about my DNA as a Brazilian. I was always a workaholic and a high achiever, a doer, a high performer. And here in Luxembourg was the first time that I found myself as being told as non-performance. And even though I was working way more than all of my male European colleagues, And another very interesting point, as a Brazilian, Brazil, for those that are not that don't know and not necessarily should, it's the biggest continent. It's the biggest country in Latin America. So I think we respond for more than 60% of the continent. But it's the only country where we speak only Portuguese. So we are a former colony of Portugal, whereas the rest of Latin America is they're former colonies of Spain. And we don't consider ourselves Latinos or Latinx, right? We consider ourselves Brazilian. And it was the first time in my life that I was ever challenged with the idea that I am a Latina and I was put in this box when I came to Europe. And that was the first shock for me because I come and I'm very aware of my white looking privilege for a country like Brazil, where more than 50% of the population is black and brown. But it was the first time that I heard, okay, you are not like us, right? And I heard things like you're exotic. And that's when I started trying to understand why I was being different and why, even though I was working crazy hours and working a lot, I was being told over and over that I was not sufficient and I was not enough. And that's when diversity and inclusion came into my life, and I started learning about that being an opportunity of a possibility of work. And I started studying a lot. So this was back in 2019. Europe was not even knowing what inclusion was, and I was lucky enough to be at EY, so I could work with US, UK, and Brazil, countries that were really evolved in terms of inclusion practices. And that's when I started realizing and learning about the data, that when you are the different one, you need to outperform your peers. And I don't remember exactly the data, but there are numbers about it. When you're a woman in tech, when you're a woman in finance, in my case, you always need to be the best. And this goes over until, especially for Black women, when we're talking about intersectionality, you need to outperform all of your peers. And that's when it became crystal clear that I was not underperforming. I was just different. And it became a clear point in my career that it didn't matter how much I would be good. I would never be good enough in that environment. So I decided to do a career change and a transition. And I moved into consulting and I landed in tech consulting. And it was, I do believe that life works in mysterious ways. And I was lucky enough to be leading the biggest tech project at EY Luxembourg, a couple millions of euros. And even though I was always doing project management, I never would consider or have considered myself a project manager. And it was because I started working with change management that they invited me to this position, which was an implementation of Dynamics 365. Had I known what Dynamics 365 was, no, I had no single clue. I was doing certifications in change management because I was working with inclusion. That was piece of HR advisory that I was trying to build. But I was lucky enough to have a partner, Brown, so BAME, as we call in UK, or POC like in the US, people of color, Black, Asian, and minority ethnics. He was from Indian origin, and he became a very good sponsor of mine because I was challenged all of the time that even though I was a good project and change manager, I didn't know anything about Microsoft. And he was the one saying, she may not know everything about Microsoft, but she knows what she's doing. So my first message to all of you is, when you think about a career change or when you think about going to tech, and I can replicate the words of my previous esteemed speakers, tech is not only coding. Tech is not only software development. There is a huge range of opportunities. So it's about project management. It's about change management, if you like, to take care of people, for example, that are in the projects. There is data analysis. There is data science. And I was leading more than 60 people, peer techies. So this is all to say, find a sponsor in your journey. So if we're talking, and I was checking the attendees, so I don't know your age ranges, but I assume we have very diverse set of ages here. Make sure to find sponsors. And what do I mean by sponsors? Find that teacher, that tutor, that professor that challenges you. Because the ones that are gonna bring you to the next level of your career, of your studies, are those that are gonna challenge you. but they're going to support when you need. That's what I mean about sponsor. And even though I was performing quite well in consulting, that's when they started giving me projects to lead women in tech networks for Europe within EY. And I started building these networks, and I started working with diversity and inclusion within EY, building the practices and the roadmap. And that's when a person posted on Facebook. So I know many of you will think, who is using Facebook? In Luxembourg, we still use Facebook. And Vasiliki, who is my co-founder in We STEM, We Make Excel in STEM, she made a post asking, I'm a Greek, I'm a computer scientist, software engineer, and I found out about girls in tech in Greece, and I would like to launch a community in Luxembourg. And even though I was not a techie myself, I really wanted to belong, and that's our biggest wire as human beings. So find your community. That's my second tip for you. First is find a sponsor. The second is find a community that will support you. So that's when we decided in June 2022, to create Girls in Tech Luxembourg. And what it started as, I even say, like a shy project, it became into a huge entrepreneurship journey for me. And in less than 2 years, we built a community that maybe for you in Nigeria, that is a big country, 2,000 followers is nothing on LinkedIn, but for us in Luxembourg, it was a huge growth. Not any other community or network here in Luxembourg was experiencing this growth. And we built a whole community of other people that were looking for other women to support them, and especially newcomers to Luxembourg. Back in last year, unfortunately, we received the news. So Girls in Tech, for those that are not familiar, was nonprofit based in the US, was one of the oldest and biggest ones. We are more than 130,000 members in the world, to close the gender gap in tech. And unfortunately, because of the sad backlash that diversity and inclusion practices are having worldwide, they stopped having sponsorship and they had to close. Here in Luxembourg, we're doing a really good job. And I'm very humble and honored to say that. But we had the option either to close down that great journey or to rebrand ourselves. And that's when last year in July 24, we launched Women Excel in STEM, or We STEM Plus. And you may think, why Girls in Tech to We STEM? First, like I said, I studied biology, business administration. I have 2 masters in positive psychology and leadership development. So I was always more focused in science and in data than I was a techie myself. Vasiliki, she is the techie. So the joke was always, I was the girl, she was the tech. So she is coming from the tech background. And Alexandra, who is our third co-founder, she is a business engineer analytics. So we were already the 3 pieces of STEM. And we said, let's go and expand our journey. And one thing that was extremely important for me is that when we talk about girls or women, who are we talking about? Are we talking about cis girls? Are we talking about trans girls? Are we talking about white girls? Or are we talking about black girls? And when we used to say girls in tech, this was not clear. So putting the plus in the end of We STEM was really to become more inclusive in terms of LGBT community and in terms of intersectionality. So be it religion, being ethnicity, being race, right? I wanted to make sure that everyone would feel included when it comes to STEM. And another important shift and change that we did, from doing one-off events that are very nice, and don't get me wrong, we put 300 people at one of the hotels here in Luxembourg, which for Luxembourg is a lot. It's a lot of buzz on social media, but we're not closing the gender gap. We're not helping minorities to go into the STEM field. So we did a shift to start technical programs. So again, remember, I'm not from a technical background, right? I mean, from STEM. But we decided to start launching technical programs. And the first one that was presented to me, so we were doing already business BI Academy, Business Intelligence Academy, for career changers, adults. And I always said, we cannot change things while working only with adults. We really need to start earlier than that, because that's when, so we have heard about biases, right? So we always have unconscious biases. We come from different countries, and we need to be mindful of that. So, sorry, I just lost my thought because I have 2 minutes left. So it's very important to be aware of our biases. And like I was saying, so we changed from one-off events to technical programs, and I started building a robotics program for girls and minorities from 11 to 18 years old. And even though it was not 300 of them, they started with 28, and I got funding for it, and I got the sponsors for it. I finished with 25 girls that had, most of them never had any contact with robotics before, and now they're really thinking about having a career in robotics. So this is all to say, and I agree with Greg, right? Tech is a girl thing, and I know that one person in the chat asked, "Is it a boy girl? It's a boy thing too?" Yes, I mean 80%, more than 80% of boys and men are in tech, right? We just need to equalize a bit the balance. So STEM is also a girl thing, and it's important. The message I have to share with you is, no matter where you're coming from, if you never liked or enjoyed mathematics, if you never liked technology, so the fields in STEM are so vast, and it's such a beautiful journey that you can grow, and you are in the right moment to choose. So don't forget, find a sponsor, find a community that can support you in this journey, find mentors that can share with you their stories. And most important of everything, just trust in yourself. So that's a bit what I had to share. And be mindful that it's not going to be an easy journey. You are going to be a woman that is going to be opening the path for other women coming behind you. You're going to be a Black girl opening the path for other Black girls coming behind you. But be mindful that you are changing lives of other people coming after you regarding the path that you're taking. So that was the message I wanted to share. This coming from a non-tech person, and I am open for questions if you have any.
A round of applause for Patricia. Yes, come from a tech background. She now mentors girls, leads tech projects. She's done all of that. She's been able to overcome the biases, discrimination. It is said that many times people build their ideas, their businesses, or their initiatives from a point of pain. And I can see that this is what Patricia did here. She suffered discrimination and said, you know what? I'm going to be that bridge for those who might be told that they don't belong here. She wants everybody to know that they belong to the tech world. Tech is gender neutral. Tech is not just about coding. She started off in biology. I mean, who would have thought? Worked with Ernst and Young as went into consulting, all of that, just moved gradually into tech. She said, you don't have to be a coder. You don't have to do the AI thing. There's a whole lot that you can do in the world of tech. And she gave us 2 pieces of advice. One, find yourself a sponsor. The sponsor is that person who is going to challenge you, but most importantly, the person is going to get to the next level in tech. 2, find a community. Your community is going to be your support system. She has built one. She's supporting other women. And finally, she said you should trust in yourself. Trust in your abilities. Don't let anybody put you down or tell you you are not capable of doing something you know that you're capable of doing. Then, it's not going to be an easy journey. I think this is one thing I admire the most. This is candor. She's being very candid here. She's not promising us that tech is going to be a walk in the park. There's work to be done. You need to learn. Like Felicia told us, continue to learn. You need to keep learning every day. So you keep abreast of what's going on in the industry, But she said that you can also be that person who is opening the door for other girls to walk in. Why don't you be that door? Just like Patricia has become the door for many girls, many marginalized people to walk into that tech world and find their voices, find their space, and then find their passion. Thank you so much, Patricia. I can't even begin to read everything that I took away. It's quite an inspiring story, you know. I mean, anybody here can tell that it doesn't matter where you're standing, you can make that change today, you can make that transition, you can pivot into tech. A round of applause. Our
Thank
favorite
you.
emojis.
Thank you, Noella. Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much, Patricia.